And with all that, we should now be going live. There we are. Hello, everybody who has been waiting, which I don't think has been that much, but welcome anyway. We're not going to be working on this model today because this model is finished and I just used it for the thumbnail. We only want to change in the Y direction. Okay, so I've done a bit of work in ZBrush before, but I'm not overly familiar with the software yet, so we're going to run into some issues here today, and I figure, you know what, that might be interesting to do on stream anyway. So first things first, I want to do a new project because this one is obviously not what I'm working with. So I think I can just go into Lightbox projects and then new, right? No, that's not what that does. That's not what that does at all. This might be the first issue. You know what? Actually, no. Maybe we can reuse some of this stuff. Like if we go in here, close this, pretty please, and then also close this if possible. Thank you. Maybe what we can do is if we get this thing, we'll be able to work off of this skull potentially, which would save me a lot of time having to model the skull again. So it might actually be a good thing to reuse this, because I've got a separate jaw and skull already here. This is just a merged version of those, I believe. Hold on, is this the separate pieces? I believe it may be. It definitely looks like it. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so this is already what I'm looking for. So let's see if we can make a copy of that. Can we? It's been a while since I've done this. Can we save as? That's a PNG. That's definitely not what I want. So if I change this, does it make a new tool or does it change the existing one? Because I don't want to overwrite the existing one if I can help it. And it does seem to be doing exactly that, which is not what I want. We'll figure this out. We will figure this out. This is fine. I'm just trying to figure out how I can copy over a existing tool. If there's anybody in chat with a little bit more experience in ZBrush, please do jump in to let me know how certain things work at times, because I'm going to need that. Once again, we can cycle through these relatively easily. It's been a few months since I last did this. Oh, hold on, it's up here somewhere, isn't it? Like edit or file. Tool mesh. I'm just gonna Google this actually. That's gonna save us all a lot of time and headache. ZBrush save as new tool. How do you save a subtool as a tool? Don't care about that particularly. Is there any way to save one subtool as a new tool without saving tools versus saving projects, saving your work? I like the way ZBrush works for sculpting, like the feeling it has. That's the reason that I'm moving over to it, because the little I've worked with it so far has been really, really nice. The whole like fucking file structure to it, and just the UI in general is a fucking nightmare. and people on the internet are definitely not. Okay, so all tools with subtools will save if you do a file menu save as. This will result in a ZPR file, which is a project file, which is not what I want. Save tool shortcuts. We're going to figure this out. Control-Shift-T will save a tool. You can also Control-Alt-left-click and save the tool to a custom shortcut. Okay, so let's first Control-Shift-T. That makes a tool file. I don't know if that should be in here, so we're just going to make a folder called tools that I can potentially move around later if I need to. So now that we have that, we've got a new version of the skull, right? I fucking hate this. So we've got this, and then we've got this one, which this one is, oh, hold on. I think I fucked up. Yeah, so this we want to Control-Shift-T. Why does this try to save it as... Oh, it still saves it as the same format. Never mind. I don't understand what's going on at all. There's a fucking copy tool button. I'm an idiot. If I do this, does it create a duplicate of this tool? Does it? Doesn't fucking seem to, does it? Can I paste tool? I just want to make a duplicate to make changes. And at this point I'm thinking I should just duplicate the project instead. Maybe that makes a little bit more sense to do it that way. Maybe clone. Clone did seem to do something. Hold on. So I've got this one now, which is a clone of the top bit. Okay, now that works for me. That works for me. That's fine. So we can take this one and add in a new subtool here, and we'll make that a boolean, and then we'll have the whole skull hollowed out again, and then we can start editing this for the repo boss that we're actually doing. Okay, so we're getting started here. We're getting started. I don't know where the hell I left my water bottle though. Oh, it's all the way over there. Well, we'll worry about that when I want to take a drink. So I think we append I hate how iffy this is. I hate how iffy this is. Append the 3D sphere. So then we just scale this down a little bit. No. We take this and we just scale this down a little bit. Ever so slightly. This doesn't necessarily need to be like locked to the different axes, in my opinion. Yeah, definitely does not need to be. But we can just edit this, right? So we can there is a quick brush, and then we can, which one is it again? So many fucking brushes. I think just grab, right? GR probably. Let's look D. No. Eventually we'll find it. Question is, how long is this going to take? There's a very high chance that I'm just looking over it as well. In Blender it's just called grab. That name makes sense to me. So far I'm not seeing any names that make sense to me here. Look, in my defense, the stream is titled Still Learning ZBrush, and it's been like 2 months since I last used ZBrush, so it's gonna take me a minute here to get used to it again, but then we'll be off and we'll be good to go. Hopefully, in theory. That's the idea anyway. There has to be a brush. Is it morph? It might just be morph. It's not just morph. It's not snake hook, right? Snake hook is something else entirely. Still kind of does what I needed to do, but I don't like having to use this because I don't think this is the proper one. And I think there is a brush that does what I needed to do, but for now I suppose that this will work well enough. Yeah, no, this brush is really unintuitive for what I'm trying to do with it. Oh, move. It's called just move, right? It's just a move brush. That's what it's called, probably. Yeah, it's just move. Okay, as we established, I am an idiot. It's just called move. Never mind everything I said before. That makes perfect sense. So let's move some things around. Let's make sure we actually have surely it's somewhere in here where we put the that's fancy as fuck. So hold on. This is the first time I'm seeing this. So I can change something separately and then just put them back together again. That's actually amazing. That is actually awesome. I didn't know that was possible. But I kind of love that. I just installed ZBrush here. I have no clue how to use it. Yeah, you and me are kind of in the same boat. I've made like a skull model and a couple of practice models with it, but a lot of my muscle memory still is very Blender based, and I still don't know how to do half the shit I want to do. Oh, it's just pressing the X button that does the mirroring. That makes sense. So let's pull all this shit out a little bit more. That might be a little too much. Also, this is not symmetrical to begin with, so that's going to be a huge pain in the ass. Okay, I'm having some bitrate issues, it seems like. Hopefully that's not going to persist throughout. The neck hole here doesn't actually matter that much because we're going to hide that away in a cloak most likely anyway, so don't really care. Let's see, how do we boolean again? I think I set this to something a little bit like this. Now we can hide this one, maybe. No, that's definitely not it. Actually, I've got a better idea. Because we can... Jesus Christ, that's loud. We can look over to this one, and we've got a... Yeah, no, that should just work that way. Do we have to set up anything like Boolean? I think we might have to select this one and say, hey, this has to be a Boolean mesh. No. Doesn't seem like that's the case. I'm just gonna Google this real quick again. ZBrush Boolean subtract. ZBrush documentation. Please be better than Unreal. Please be better than Unreal. Okay, so we can say... okay, so what I've got so far seems to be working, and then we render booleans. Okay, we need to set up live boolean. Where is that located though? Prepare your models for each subtool, the operator, the boolean settings and functions found in render. So that's probably somewhere down here, right? It's alphabetical. It is not, because of course it's not. Am I just not seeing the render option here? Subtool, geometry, array mesh, nano mesh, slime bridge, thick skin, layers, fiber mesh, geometry HD, preview, surface deformation, masking, visibility, polygroups, contact, morph targets. Yeah, no, none of this has render. Found in the render external render subpalette. Yeah, so maybe, just an idea, people who write this, don't just take a screenshot. I'll just show this on stream, right? Don't just show a random screenshot of a submenu without any context as to where to find it for your documentation. That's actually a horrible idea. Don't do that. Like, even for this one, that kind of sucks. But it's kind of fine. It's up here. And then we have... What do we need to look at? It is render, external render. So it is... Yeah, no, it's just not though, is it? It's just not there, is it? A render booleans, live boolean. There we go. That's what I needed. Okay, cool. Can throw that tab away again. This works now. So now we have our boolean here, which is good. And we can go back to our subtools and we can say, hey, I want to append another one. And I want to append the jaw, which I think will be this one. So this is now its own submesh, right? Yeah. Let's go back to this one, and what the fuck did I do? No, really, what happened? How? Why is it no longer showing? Oh my god, I hate this. It's got to be something to do with this, like, render thing, right? It's up here somewhere. Render. something fucked there. Anyway, let's make this a little bit more evil. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do this, because I probably want this guy to be able to make facial expressions at some point, which will involve me making morph targets. I will probably do the morph targets in Blender, I have to imagine. That you make the skull mesh from a sphere. Originally, yeah, it started as a sphere. I just modeled the entire thing. It took me a couple of hours. Let's make sure it's clipping through at no place though, because at this point it definitely is in a few places. Now, let's try to make him look a little bit more evil, and we're just going to do that by disregarding every sense of actual, like, human anatomy, and we're going to change the shape of the skull to be a little more maniacal. And there's really not that much to it, other than just like pulling this out a little bit, pulling this down a little bit, and just making him look angry is really what it comes down to. Can we just disable? I would prefer being able to see the live render on that, but I suppose that doesn't make a lot of sense to do in the end. So that already is making him look a lot more evil and somewhat more imposing. But I'm thinking I probably also want the nose bridge here to be a little more narrow. And then we can decrease the size of my brush to also pull all this up a little more. Maybe actually not. Maybe what we want is the bottom to actually be somewhat more rounded and open. Is that what we want? I think that might be what we want. I'm also thinking making these eye sockets extend out a little more, especially like in these corners here. Okay, yeah, that is definitely too much. Might be something nice. And then as a whole, maybe narrow this a little bit as well. In general, this is not even just a sculpting thing, this is just a character design thing. In general, pointy means evil, so we should make things a slightly more like pointy shape wherever we can. So wherever we have like angles, let's accentuate those angles, and we'll brush this up with like a trim brush in a moment to make that even more apparent. I don't think I necessarily need to make any part of the like round skull more pointy, because it does still need to look like a skull. And I'm taking quite a few creative liberties here as is with the eye sockets, which again I do think might be a little overdoing it, so let's pull them in a little more. pull them out. Yeah, I think I... What the fuck did I do there? Oh, he's back now. He's back. Okay, cool. He's back. That's good. Makes him a little bit more monkey-like in his face shape. I think. Okay, let's turn on live bull again to see what this looks like. Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. So now what we do is we start on the cloak. And the cloak I think I'm going to make into 2 pieces. The hood is going to be 1 piece and then the rest of the body is going to be a separate piece. And then we need to make the arms as well, which we'll worry about when we get to that. So let's make a new subtool, and we'll start with a 3D sphere for this one, and we'll just pull that over the head. Also, can we like not make this a ball? That would be fantastic, because at this point we're just gonna ignore this until it becomes a problem, at which point I'll deal with it, and if it doesn't become a problem, I won't deal with it. It's just gonna be as easy as that. Again, we're gonna pull this up over the skull itself, and then I'll do a ball operation on this in a moment to pull out like everything around the skull itself. But for now, let's just make the general shape. Do we have... No, we don't have Dynamesh, which is probably in geometry, if I had to guess. Dynamic subdivision, nope. Dynamesh, there we go. Why isn't that? Oh, I need to enable it. That makes sense. And now if I draw this, it creates new geometry in theory. So if I pull this all the way the fuck out here and do that, yeah, okay. I would love to try to give a overview of what I'm doing, but frankly I don't have enough of a grasp on this to really talk about much in a way that's going to be helpful and not more confusing. So what I can do is I can give you a brief overview of what like the interface is and how things work, but you're probably better off listening to somebody who actually knows what they're talking about when it comes to this. But the basic idea is, if you're used to something like Blender, the subtools are your different objects that you're working with. So I can say, hey, this is the skull, this is a Boolean object, this is the jaw, and then now I'm making like the hood of the cloak. These are all your different objects. That's also where you do Boolean operations, which are quite counterintuitive. If I go into my renderer here somewhere, render, that's where you can turn on and off the live Boolean. And whenever I add a new one of these subtools, as they're called, a new object, which I need to do right now anyway, so I might as well show you, we can append, and then we can append any of the objects that we have made here. So when you make, well, actually no, that's not true. You can append any of the objects that you've made up here as tools. So you can say if you make, for instance, a sphere 3D here, and I start editing this, for some reasons not changing, and that is because right now it is procedurally being generated. So somewhere in the geometry tab, I think, maybe, no, in the initialize tab, maybe it's just a right click thing. There is a button somewhere to turn this into a mesh that you can sculpt on. I just always forget what it is. So once you've done that, I'm just going to ignore that for the time being. No, I'm not actually. Where do we do that again? If I change my brush, will it allow me to know? It's really weird. So yeah, as you can see, I also get stuck on stuff. Yeah, the interface is a pain in the ass and needs to be updated, but by the time they like start updating it, there's gonna be like thousands upon thousands of like real world professionals that are gonna get annoyed because they've learned this. Let me Google this real quick. ZBrush turn into polymesh 3D. How do we do that again? So yeah, this is a primitive. So this is just a sphere in this case, which is again procedurally generated. So we can say how many loops it has in the X and the Y directions. And then we can turn this into a polymesh 3D, which is what we use to sculpt on. They've been created from Z-spheres. Polymeshes have been made in programs using the Make Polymesh 3D button. So is that just in... There is a button for that somewhere. Just gonna Google real quick where that is again. ZBrush Make Polymesh 3D. It's gotta be somewhere in here surely. Is it up there? Oh, there it is. This button up here, Make Polymesh 3D. That turns our primitive into a new tool that we can use, and now we can sculpt on it, right? So now we can say, hey, we want to sculpt this, and we want to do stuff with it. So these are like bug eyes, and then we start drawing in a little bit of like a neck. And at some point, we're going to need more geometry, because we're just displacing existing geometry, and for that we go into the geometry tab here, and no we don't, yes we do, and we have Dynamesh. If we turn that on and we just hold down Control and we draw in an empty little bit of space here. We can use Control to like mask out things, but if you just mask out nothingness, it does a Dynamesh update and it generates new 3D meshes for us to work with, to extrude out, and then we can Dynamesh again, and so on and so forth. So that's the basic idea of what we're doing. Anyway, I was working on one of these things somewhere around here. There we go. So let's add in a new subtool here as we were working with that all. Append, and let's append a sphere 3D, which now gets added to the list. So we can say, hey, we got that. And now we want to change that. And this is something that I just learned on stream right now. If we press this button, it separates out all of the individual pieces for us to work on without us actually having to move them around. And then when we press this again, it really combines everything, which is fucking fantastic. But we can also simply say, hey, we're just going to hide all of these pieces. And I just want this piece to be visible here. So what we can do is we can pull this out a little more. I'm going to go back to the move brush because it's easier to just pull things around with, which is what we're doing right now. And if you press X, you get your cursor mirrored on both sides in the X-axis, and I think in the Y-axis it should do the same, but it doesn't in the Z, but I don't know about that. So let's pull all of this up a little bit more so we get a good looking ball for the hood. But not too much. Because obviously we still do need the hood to not clip through like that. In a moment here I'm going to need to check how to actually apply these ball meshes as well, because I've forgotten that too. Because this is not great. Is there a shortcut for live ball? Because I'm really not happy with having to go into that menu every single time. ZBrush, live ball shortcuts. Is there a live balling? Yeah, I know how it works now. I just want to know, is there a shortcut for it? Doesn't look like there is. Okay. Then let's turn it off for now. We're going to have to apply this at some points anyway. Okay, so now actually I do think I do want the clay build-up, rather. You see, having to come up here every single time to enable the ball is just not great. And for some reason it only works half the time as well. Like, I just turned it on, didn't I? Yes, I did. Okay, so that takes a moment, and that then should apply the boolean, but it does not. And you gotta wonder why that is. Oh, it's because it was disabled. Okay, that makes sense. So if we select this now, we say make boolean mesh. Do we need to do that on the thing that we're subtracting, or do we need to do that on this, is my question then. Oh, this is real weird. We are doing it this way. But let's make that a little smoother altogether. Geometry, Dynamesh. I think every time you press this button, it also does a Dynamesh. Now I think about it. So can we say make boolean mesh here? Like, if we do that and then we just hide this, no, we need to do it on this maybe. Oh, it's okay. So that is the issue. Yeah, so I'm drawing the cloak, at least the hood part of the cloak right now. But it's kind of annoying to deal with how this works, and that's what I'm trying to get a little bit more used to. So let's not move that around. So let's pull this all down a little bit more. Maybe just like remove. It is a nice animation when it splits those things apart. When it does that, it looks really satisfying. And then when we put those back together, you see we get this, and we can, okay, move that a little bit in that direction, and we'll smooth this out in a moment after we've actually applied the bool, which we'll do once this looks good, which I think at this point this does look pretty good. Any changes that we want to make are mostly due to like this mesh at this point, right? So we can just pull this back a little more, pull that up. Did you ever try to export any FBX to Unreal so far? Yeah, that's the main format that I use, and I think like everybody uses to export things into Unreal and pretty much any game engine, I think. But before doing that, this is going to need to go through Blender or whatever you use for retopologizing anyway. What the fuck is happening here? We'll worry about that later. Because this is at the moment 3.1 million vertices, which Unreal's not going to be happy about. For maybe with Nanite for a static mesh, it can deal with that. But for a animated like character mesh, which is what this is, it's not gonna like that, like one bit. It's going to hate that. ZBrush. apply boolean. How do we do that? There is a way to do that. Make boolean mesh just makes this into a new tool that we can add. So if we say, hey, this make boolean mesh, it should be adding a new mesh up here. Which it does. Okay, can I now make this into like a tool or something like that? Because that would be ideal. I suppose I can just remove these two. If I just delete, yeah, it'll be fine. Just delete these two. This will now be a tool in and of itself, and then we can go back here, and if we delete these two, it's kind of risky to do. Oh my god, no. 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 Oh wait, maybe, yes, actually. Delete this one too. Then the jaw comes back. Okay. And then we can append that hood that we just made. So append this. And now we have this in here as a new subtool. Okay, I'm getting back in the flow of ZBrush. Slowly but surely, I'm getting it a little bit more. Let's now actually start working on this though. Because these edges are stupidly sharp. So we can use a smooth brush, I'm thinking. Probably to like smooth this. No, that's not the smooth brush still. Brush smooth. Okay. Why are you not? It's just holding the shift key is smoothing. I forgot about that. So why? There we go. That's making the edge sharper though, which is not what I want. Like we can trim these edges. Oh no, that's definitely not what I want. First and foremost, let's make my brush size smaller. I guess kind of does what I want, but not really. What I want is rounder edges here. I suppose what I could do is use the blob, like blob it, and then smooth it. Nah, that ain't really doing anything in my favor. What's the best way to do this? Form soft? Is that it, maybe? Really doesn't look like it either. Maybe if I just keep smoothing it out, will that make it go flat? Or at least like rounder? Doesn't look like it either. Maybe if I try to smooth this from like the inside as well. Let's just Google this because there's got to be an easy way to do this. ZBrush make edge rounder. Not with polymodeling. Polymodeling fucking sucks in ZBrush. I don't like it. Rounding an edge. That's exactly what I want. Smooth, polish, relax. Relax sounds pretty good. That's not an option. Polish, maybe polish. If we use polish. That pretty much seems to be doing what I wanted to be doing. We also might just want to make this like Dynamesh. That might help us out a little bit as well. I just don't want these very sharp edges here, is all there is to it. Yeah, that might not be doing as much as I would have liked, to be honest with you. That's still pretty sharp after going over it a few times. Also, there's quite a lot of glitchiness up there, which I'm not eager to figure out how we're going to deal with that. But that's a problem for future me. I'm going to take my water bottle real quick, and maybe in a moment I'll have an answer. Maybe I should have just spent an evening getting reacquainted with the ZBrush before doing this on a live stream, but I think it's actually like probably some type of valuable to see this happening live. Like you see a lot of tutorial stuff on the internet where all the fucking about and messing up gets taken out, because that's not like gonna help anybody see results, right? Oh, if we polish and then smooth, maybe. So we polish and we smooth. That's looking a lot more like what I had in mind. Anyway, so as I was saying, all that, it doesn't really help people get the result they want, and as a result, most people aren't really interested in it. But I do think there is some there's some type of value in showing the difficulty in processes sometimes, and especially when like learning new stuff and experimenting and stuff like that. This is only making stuff worse up here. So we're not going to go up there for the time being. I'm just gonna go down here and keep doing what I was doing. Yeah, so here smoothing things out and then polishing them up a little bit and then smoothing them out a little bit. Polishing. I don't like the polish. Let's go back to trim adaptive. I think that works a lot better. It's a little strong. Can we change the intensity? I think we can. You know what we'll also do? We'll turn off the skull that's in my face. I think that's also going to help a little bit. Yeah, we definitely want to be using the trim brush for this. This works a lot better for me. Although it still is a little annoying with these very sharp edges over here. But then remeshing it does also help. Let's try to smooth this out, and maybe if we try to trim this, it'll do something weird. I don't know what it'll do. It'll do something weird, I can promise you. No. Promise you that. I keep using shift to move around because that's how you do it in Blender. It's not how you do it in ZBrush. I think I want to inflate. If I can inflate this stuff, I'll have more room to do what I need to do with it. And it's going to be very ugly geometry here for a moment. But I do think this is the way I want to go about doing this now. Because if I inflate this, then Dynamesh, the geometry should all just be neat quads, and then I can smooth that out, and everything should go to a more round, more pleasant shape. So Dynamesh this, there we go, and then I can smooth this all out and create more of the shape that I'm looking for. And it immediately also makes like a little bit of an edge for the hood, which is a nice little bonus, I think. But it could probably do with a little bit more smoothing than this. Okay, let's move this thing about a little bit more. So go back to the... What the fuck did I do? Now really, what did I do? Sure. How do I keep hiding this thing? Okay, once again, we're going to try to move this thing about a little bit more. So it's a little bit more over the face. And now that we have the actual skull there, we should be able to somewhat easily do that. But we do want... No. We do want the bottom here to be open. We're not going to make any like neck bones for this guy. He's not going to have a spine. So this doesn't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things. But just to make this look a little bit more... Well, I don't know if realistic is definitely the word I would want to use. Because we are making a hood for a floating skeleton, so... I don't know, realism. Realism doesn't really come into that. Pull this down a little bit more. It's kind of iffy to control this the way I wanted to. Bigger brush size for this. Like, this is not symmetrical at all. Like, this needs to be pulled in quite a bit more. Then we can pull this up. It doesn't need to be exactly symmetrical, I should point out. That's fine. It just doesn't... It should not feel out of balance, and that's what it does right now. This tool you use to pull the mesh. Yeah, so this is just moving the mesh around, just pulling it. And then we've got a... Fuck. I hate this. There we go. And then we've got like a bunch of different brushes as well that I'm still getting used to, because it's a lot more brushes than Blender has, and that's a good thing. And the brushes work seemingly, I don't know why, but they seem like more intelligent. But there's a lot of getting used to this shit. We can inflate. How do we... That's mask. Oh, Alt is negative. So yeah, you also, if I'm doing like, I don't know if I want to call this tutorial because I myself hardly know what I'm doing half the time here. But you've got these brushes which do certain things. So this like inflates geometry. If you hold down Alt, it'll do the negative, so it will deflate instead. That's not good. That's real not good. Let's clay build up this a little bit more. That's just breaking things more. Fuck. I want to reconnect this mesh. Can we please do that? No, not make more holes, you absolute idiot. Still like a pinch that we have. Maybe polish? Is polish gonna help me here? Nah, it's not gonna help me. I think we have dam standard that might... no. Honestly, probably just gonna be using the move brush to manually pinch this together, regen, and then... Don't know, that seems like it might also be a hole. There's probably a better way to do this, I do want to point out. But that seems to have worked, so that's fine. Let's smooth that over a little bit more. Okay, exactly from front position. That's not what I wanted to do. Apparently that plugin that I installed is not doing what it should be doing anymore. Front. Okay. Let's move this in a fair bit more then. Maybe also just move that out a little bit. And part of this also maybe just needs to be a little deflated. Not too much, just a little bit. Let's trim this and smooth it out. Same here. If we trim and smooth, that should make the edges are a little too sharp for my liking. I need to figure out a consistent way to like get rid of those sharper edges because I don't like them. Like this way works, but there's got to be a better way. For now though, I do think that this is a pretty decent like Grim Reaper head with a like a hood. Which brings us to the cloak. We're not going to get to the hands today. I'll just say that right now. Let's try to bring this in a little bit so the back of his head doesn't feel so fucking like bulbous. Having this sagging down a little more might not hurt though. and just smooth the ever-living hell out of that bit. Okay, I do think that is a decent place to have the hood in. Might be a little bit thin, but we'll worry about that later. Let's add the next subtool. For that, we're going to append. Hate the fact that when you move your cursor outside of this little pop-up, it just disappears, but not much we can do about that. Do I want another sphere for this? I think I might want another sphere for this. And the way we're going to deal with this, no. That's definitely not what we want. We want to move this one. So yeah, so you can also just move these things like that and just scale them up like that. So we can say, hey, we scale this, and we make it like very wide and pretty thin. And then we have a pretty good basis for our actual cloak. Which I don't exactly know how I'm going to make work yet. So we're gonna figure this out together. Usually it's a good idea to have a bit of a plan before going into this kind of stuff. I don't do that because I am an idiot. So let's create a little bit of like a bulging back first. And then the one thing that I always run into with any kind of sculpting is twisting and rotating things around. And we're going to run into that here as well, I think. I still haven't found a real good way to do that. Do we have like a pose brush or something like that? No, we don't. In Blender you do, so surely there is something like that and it's just called something different. Snakehook might be able to... Yeah, Sculpting Pro bullshit. Snakehook might be able to do something similar to that, but it's still like... Bending it around is a bit of a pain. Do we have like twist? I don't know. The moment I figure that out is when I really get comfortable working with this workflow. Because that's still the thing that usually ends up dragging me down a little bit. Maybe if I just like need to enable Dynamesh in order to be able to do that first and foremost. Maybe if I just like, no, don't do that. Dynamesh. Maybe Dynamesh and then smooth and then move again and then Dynamesh and then smooth and then move again. It's the way we do it. I don't know. Not loving that as a workflow, honestly. But that's probably the way we're going to do it for now. So we're just going to improvise as we go along. Need a smaller brush for that. Actually, is this relative size or is this... No, that's absolute size. I think there is a way to change that to be like relative, like screen space size instead of like absolute 3D space for the size, which both of them are useful in different situations. Let's Dynamesh. Because I could see the geometry stretching out a little too much there. It's a little iffy what we're doing right now, but it's working. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? The only thing now will be like pulling this around in a way that makes sense. I can pull this out relatively easy, right? Into like the direction that it's already going in. But then turning that around is gonna be the difficult bit. Because it's making like these very ugly, inconsistent movements. And I don't love it. I certainly don't. Snakehook is doing a little bit of a better job, though, I will admit that, than the move brush in this department. So probably that was a good idea to use that, but I've got to imagine that there's a better method for this still. Because in the end, this needs to be pulled all the way across. Oh, and there we get into the issue that I've also had in Blender before, where I only want to influence the connected geometry directly, and I don't know how to do that in ZBrush. So that's gonna be an issue for now. I'm starting to think, actually, how am I going to do the arms for this guy through his cloak, or in combination with his cloak? I ran into this issue with the small enemy variation on this guy. And that was a huge pain in the ass. So maybe I don't want to do that. Better yet, I know that I don't want to do that. That's gonna be a bad time. We don't want that. So then what do we do? Well, he's not gonna have a body, is the thing. But he is gonna have arms because he does need to hold a weapon. And for that, we don't want a cloak that goes all the way around. So maybe all that we want is, maybe we just want to go like Control Z a lot. Luckily, not Blender, ZBrush has a very long undo history by default. So maybe all that we want to do is we want to brush Snakehook. Just like pull this across a little bit. And then, is Dynamesh still turned on here? No. And just make this, oh my god, that's horrendous. That is actually the worst. Just make it a little like this, right? And again, that is actually fucking horrible. Where we don't actually make this all the way around, and then we just have these two arms here, which will drive the cloth physics, and hopefully that will work. And I fucking hate the shortcuts in ZBrush. So let's move to the move brush here, because we've got some stuff to clean up a little bit. Like more than a little bit, actually. Holy hell, this is Don't even know how I did that. ID. Let's go in here and turn off the scope. Can we turn off the skull, please? No. Okay, skull is turned off. That's a start. Now also turn off the jaw. Thank you. And this fucking thing. But yeah, if I was gonna make a body for this, you are right. Probably would make that before making like any clothes to go with that, because you'll want to generally in a 3D workflow, no matter what your workflow is, what you want to do is go from like less detail to more detail. So from like broad to very, very fine detail on the whole model. So first you block out the rough shape, then you start adding in features, then you start adding in details, and then finally like micro details, and you do that in a couple of passes depending on how much you need. So you would make the body before starting like on clothes and stuff. That would make a lot more sense. This guy just simply does not have a body. So that is why. It's just going to be a floating cloak with skeletal arms, which is then driven by like physics. So let's make this bigger and smooth these out a little and move things. There can be a little bit of shaping to this first. Probably should be even. But not too much. Like we take the inflate again and we start deflating the inside here quite a lot. Yeah, I think this is doing things. Don't know if I particularly think that they're great things or even good things, but it's certainly doing things. Yeah, that's probably decent actually. A lot of the like falling inward here will probably happen due to the physics. It's a good idea to maybe test that before I move forward, but I don't think I will. Also just deflating the edges here in general makes them a little like less bulbous. That helps with, I don't know what it helps with, but it surely helps with something. Let's redye. What the fuck did I do there? Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Definitely don't want that. Yeah, that's better. Well, there's a couple of problematic spots here, but we'll figure that out. Let me think. Let me think. I didn't think this through before starting, which was a mistake. Let's, with a much smaller brush again, move this around a little still. Deflate this. No, not that much. Cut. Oh, holding Alt and tapping on an inactive object also makes it the active object. Huh. That can be nice, but can also be really annoying. Smooth the overloading hell out of it. And that probably works quite well. Okay, so I think I'm not going to model the arms individually in ZBrush because I have arms already in Blender for the other version of this enemy, like the base version. This is the boss fight version. I've got a base version for this guy, and I don't think I necessarily want to deal with remaking those bones, because making those bones, there's a lot of bones to those arms because they're skeleton arms. It was quite a lot of work. Spent like 2 hours on that, I believe, in total, maybe even more. So I don't really want to deal with that again. So we're just going to re-import those. But I'm still not entirely sure whether or not this whole like floating cloak ID is going to be a good idea, because this guy is going to move his arms around a lot for his attacks, and when I tried that before in Unreal, that was a bit of a problem. My the physics did not like that. And it might have had something to do with the fact how I rigged it up or whatever, I don't know. But I also kind of don't want to deal with that again. Not for right now, anyway. But I also, like, the alternative is making this guy more of a body. So it has to rely less on the cape physics, and the cape physics can just be like a added slight little thing rather than the main bit of movement for his body. But that means that I now have to model an entire skeleton, which I also don't want to do. So I'm a little torn as to what I want to do with this, to be honest. What I'm thinking right now is let's try to add in those arms and just see how they spatially work. Which means that I have to find in Blender the project file, and I don't remember where I put that. It's probably in my game dev action RPG. That's just a build, I think. Or is that the... no, it's the Unity version control. Assets, models, characters, enemies, basic repo. There we go. So if we open up this, which will take a while, we can see I already have the... hold on. Not in edit mode. I already have the arms kind of working, and I can just reuse these arms. So what we can do is... I don't know, why did I keep these as separate objects? Did it have something to do with... it probably had something to do with Substance Painter. But we're not going to do that for this, because that's going to be a fucking pain in the ass. What we'll do is we'll just select all of these objects, duplicate them over, and join them together. I didn't duplicate them. Let's... basic Reaper arm. Just do that. It's fine. Now we can delete all this and that, and just set this to location 0, 0, 0. Don't need that anymore either. And then we just export this and try to import that into is FBX good? Let's actually just check in ZBrush. If I want to import something, import, what is it looking for? Is that also looking for FBX or just OBJ? FBX is acceptable. Okay, so let's do FBX. Okay, let's do this with my stylus because I don't have enough room for my cursor, or for my mouse rather. Reaper basic, arm, only selected objects, pretty please. This is the low res version. Maybe we should import the high res version. That seems like a better idea. So let's join these. Or just delete those instead. Yeah, let's do that. I don't know if it's going to make a huge difference, but I would prefer that. So, only the visible objects, that works as well. Put them in there. And import the Reaper basic arm. Only no, don't need any of that. Okay, so we have that now as a subtool. So we can append. the cylinder thingy arm, which is fucking huge, as it turns out. Hold on. This thing is humongous. It's a little too big. It's so big that the cape actually looked like it was just the hood for a moment there. But it's starting to look a little bit more the right dimensions. And that actually does look like the cape might have been a pretty good size as is, because this pretty much looks like what I would imagine it. Yeah, no, adding in this really is making me think that we should at least try to make the cloak work, because this looks pretty nice in my opinion. If we have this and then also add in like a bunch of like smoke particles where his body should be, I think that will work relatively well. Now, can we copy, paste? Yes, we can. And then we just rotate this thing 180 degrees. Can we just... Would be nice if we could just put that in as a value. Maybe we can't. I don't know. Oh, we also definitely need to flip this in the Z-axis. How can we flip things in ZBrush? It's a very good question. I'm not entirely sure. ZBrush flip. It's probably in geometry actually. It's probably in geometry. There's a mirror button in tool modifiers deformation. Okay, so tool. Surely that's in subtool, right? Remesh projects, no. Tool. Yeah, that just makes that. So surely modifiers is somewhere in here then. Deformation. Mirror. Nope. It's not what I wanted to do. It also doesn't really do what I... Oh, hold on. What I can do instead is I can just take this and mirror that along the X, right? No. Okay. Do I still have two arms? I still have two arms. Cool. I want to edit this one. And then we go back to deformation and we say I want to mirror this in a Y. Hold on. No. Hold on. This is what I need it to be. The thumb is now facing the right direction. I don't know what I did, but it worked. The issue was that the thumb was facing backward because I just dragged it over. But now it's also mirrored. So whatever I did, it worked. Fantastic. Except that the origin point for this makes no sense now. But we're just not gonna think about that. That's the best way to deal with that for me right now. So let's move a little bit of fabric away from, this is inflate, that's not move. A little bit of fabric moving away from this shoulder over here. Also, let's just look at this from the front, because yeah, there's no way, nah, that's not even close to symmetrical. That should be fixed up a little more. Let's pull this up. Move this along. That seems a bit more symmetrical. Yeah, symmetrical enough at any rate. Okay. We are in fact getting somewhere with this, hopefully. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lose my mind at how loud this fucking Windows sound effect is. I'm gonna go for a like 1 minute bathroom break, and when we come back we're gonna add some fabric detail to the cloak and such. It's gonna be fun. Okay, the detailing time. This is gonna be fun. Where did I put my stylus? There we go. Okay. So I don't really think that the skull needs much in terms of extra detailing, because again, the skull I had pre-made already, because I just made a skull asset. Huh. Okay, didn't know you could do that. So let's start by making, I think we just have a cloth brush, right? Cloth pull. So we can just pull this down a little, and that does exactly what you think it would do. I think this is the intensity, right? So let's decrease that a little bit. And just start pulling down cloth a little bit. Just for some detailing. Doesn't need to be overly realistic, so we don't need to go overboard with details. And this might be a bit too much, to be honest with you. But doing this gives the cloth a little bit more directionality, which is nice. But it also needs it on the inside here. Why is it not getting it on the inside though? We'll worry about that in a moment. Maybe... Oh, that definitely don't. Just like ever so slightly smooth it up. Just to make it a little less intense. Because it's a bit intense at the moment. Just less intense. So it's a little more subtle. I think subtlety is quite important to keep in mind. But also make sure that we don't clip through anything. So we have other cloth brushes as well. We can cloth slide. Oh my god, that's way too intense as well. So that's pretty good for things like the drag that a cloth would have. But this is better for like normal detailing, I think. This also kind of works for creating like dragging and sagging of the cloth. Oh, no, don't know what I did there. Wrong key. Oh, no. Wrong key again. Oh, it's the colors that I'm fucking with. There we go. Other cloth brushes. Cloth twister. That's good for up to... Oh my god, that's also intense. Just need like a little detailing. That's all there is to it. We can twist up the cloth a little bit. Every here and there, and there, and there. Just to mix it up a little bit. And then go over with a slight bit of smoothing again. That's quite a bit of an improvement so far. Then I just want to play around a little bit. We've got the standard dam, which we're going to go to a much smaller brush size for. Like, much smaller. And we're going to just draw some lines onto this with that. Which might look a little bit like stitch lines. Maybe that's even a little too intense still. That's maybe a little too subtle. Maybe not stitch lines as much as like creases. So we'll try to follow the folds that we've just made a little more. And a general shape of the object. I don't love it. I'm gonna keep it, but I'm not gonna keep doing it. Let's move to this and do some cloth stuff there as well. So you can just use the normal... Hold on, actually. Maybe that's a neat brush. I haven't actually ever used that one before. What does this one do? Maybe it needs to be a little bigger. Oh, that could be really kind of neat. Hold on. If we do that and we... Oh, yeah. Okay, that's actually quite neat. If it's not as strong, but we can very much use that to like make the suggestion of how it's like folded up a little bit more. So it would crease up more in the areas where we have like indentation. And then we smooth that out because again we don't want this to be too obvious, but that does add some more texture to the entire thing. Oh no. No. Just want to smooth this out. I'm just going to deal with that for now, and we're going to move on to this. I don't want to be spending like 100 hours on one model. I've got shit to do, right? And here we've got cloth pinch as well and nudge. We'll have fold. We've got quite a lot of cloth specific things actually. But for now, we'll kind of take it easy. So let's do cloth pulling with a bigger brush size. So we just... Hello? This ain't really given us much in the way of detail. For some reason or another. Is that because we are so big? Must be. Is this gonna give me more? Not really. Huh. It's kind of weird. In that case, let's do a different one for this. And we'll just use cloth slide right from the get-go. And with a bigger intensity. You know, I'm not entirely sure why. Is it a Dynamesh thing? Why is this not adding the same amount of detail? Is it based on the size of the model? That would be really weird. Cloth twist. It's the size of the brush compared to the geometry. That has to be it, right? Why is this being treated so differently? Don't quite understand that. Cloth hook. Well, that's not entirely what I was looking for. Cloth pinch. It's a nice brush. And it's actually doing what it's advertising that it should do, so it's a good fucking start, isn't it? But the other ones are just not. Wait, did I just see a brush that is history recall? So can I just... Current brush require a recall mesh that was stored by doing undo right... Control click to undo. Huh. Interesting. So you can undo with a brush if you set it up properly, it seems like. It's kind of neat. I have this Dynamesh, right? Or am I going insane? Do I just want to up the Dynamesh resolution for this? Don't know what the fuck that did, but some set this to like, oh, I can just type. Double Dynamesh with that, and then, oh, that's the wrong brush. That's yeah, it's not adding in the wrinkles that I was expecting, not gonna lie. It's kind of throwing me for a loop because of that. Also, the edges of this fucking cloak are being... let's take care of that first. Inflates. Oh, you can actually... Oh, that's zoom in and zoom out. That's kind of neat. Just instinctively used plus and minus for that, assuming that it would work, and it did. Okay, with the cloth nudge. I mean, like a lot, and that should work, but it should do the same thing that I did. I mean, I did use cloth nudge for that. I don't know what I used for that. Cloth hook? Definitely not cloth hook. Cloth slide, I believe I used for that. And that's just acting entirely different. I can't really tell you why. From this direction. But no, it's not. That's still fucking up real bad. A cloth pool is what I used. The one with the table. Just keep doing that. It's making creases on the inside, so that's a good start. I don't know why it's not creasing more, is the thing that's bothering me a little bit, right? Because it definitely... I mean, we can just this. That works for me. It's a little messy. I'm also going to take fucking forever to do with this one. So I would really prefer not to. Is it just like, can I see a wireframe of, because I really feel like that would really help me. I mean, the cloth pool brush, it's what I did up here, it acted much different on this model than it does on this, and I'm not entirely sure why, and that is the issue. Because making it like all wrinkly and what I want, and here it's just kind of working like a normal pool brush, normal pool brush, which is not as nice for me. So let's undo a lot of the stuff that I did here. Because look, if I use this brush on here, it does this. If I then select this and use the same brush here, it does that. Something entirely different. Is it because I need to, like, just like in Blender, apply the scale of this thing or something? Is it because it has transform data? That could be it, to be fair. ZBrush, apply transform scale or something. Drag the center point, endpoint, drag away. That's not what I'm doing here at all. Yeah, none of this really refers to anything to do with this. So I'm assuming that this is not what the issue is. But then I don't know what the actual issue is. And if I could see the wireframe, I could see if maybe it's just somehow more dense in its wireframe. So maybe if we go to render, we can see wireframe or something like that. ZBrush show wireframe. How do we do that? Probably know by now. You can hold, hit Shift F, click the button to turn wireframe on and off. Okay, let's do that. Shift F. So yeah, that's pretty dense geometry, I would argue. So that probably is not the issue. And this in much the same way, like that's the same density, right? Well, maybe this is a little more dense, but that makes sense because actually Dynameshed it to be. So let's set this back to geometry Dynamesh 128 real quick. So now this should be the same scale in the geometry. Like every quad is roughly the same size between this and this. And it's just different. It's just doing different stuff. Which is weird. Just really fucking weird is what it is. This brush also is relatively useful. Like it does something, like it's the same brush, but this version of the brush, for lack of a better term, also is quite useful because it does function differently from just the move brush, but it's not what I want necessarily. And if I then go back here, it fucks up the inside here as well, which is weird because it doesn't do that for the other objects. So let's just set the draw size to being humongous. Maybe that'll do something? Nah, not really. Well, it does something, to be fair. But I want to add more wrinkles into it, which is kind of hard when this brush is not doing that. So I don't like this. That said, though, the shape that this makes is a good thing. Like I like the way this reshaped the cloak, so we can keep that much. That's cool. That's fine. Like again, this is a useful brush. The way that it drags along and with it other geometry very naturally to make this like more droopy kind of feel, which is again quite neat. But it's not what I'm looking for. So, and on this other object, it does do what I look for, because it does, well, that. Like this, right? It also scrunches up the geometry right there. Is that because it's got two different polygroups or something on that one and doesn't on this? Is that it? Actually, it could be it. Hold on. ZBrush generate polygroups from normals. I know you can do that. Just gotta remember how. Oh, it's just one of the options in here. Is it in geometry itself? I think it's a separate submenu. Polygroups. So we could, like, let's do auto groups. Auto group. And then that just creates one group. Group by normals. Still just creating one group, isn't it? Max angle 90. If I do the max angle something lower, still nothing. In that case, ID number 2. What we'll do is can I do like Control Shift and then nope, that's not what that does. That does both sides as well. I don't even know if this would be the way to go about doing it, to be honest. Mask. We don't want circle. I'm very quickly losing my ability to give a shit. That's not a good thing. Let's just try to make things work a little bit with this. Nope, not that much. And a lot of the more intricate details for the cloak itself are going to come from the physics anyway, most likely. So that should probably be fine, honestly. Let's pull this down a bit more. Dynamesh. Pull it down. Pull this all down. Can we like polish? Maybe now? On the inside here? I suppose this kind of works, what we're doing here. Still definitely not what I wanted, but we can't always get everything how we want things to be, I suppose. I need to get to testing this in engine anyway at some point. Polish. Let's polish things up a little bit here. And then polish them up on the inside. Smooth them out. And honestly, I do think that this is gonna have to do it for right now. Again, this might even not be altogether necessary. Yeah, I think this might actually. Let's just. All of this detailing that I'm doing here. Like, this much is cool. This much is good. This is fine. Maybe even a bit much still, but we can deal with that. So we can brush, cloth. Let's try cloth slide. Okay, so if we do cloth. If we do slide. Yeah, still don't like it. It's probably W. I was going to say P because it's cloth pool, but maybe not. Let's make these creases all a little like bigger and see how this ends up in engine. I can always come back in here and who knows, maybe even just go through it in Blender. Maybe the brushes in Blender don't fuck me over. That would be fantastic if Blender is for once the thing that is making me happy. What even is this? I don't know. Brush, polish the inside up a little bit more again. Polish up the outside to be just in general less extreme in its shape, because a lot of the shape from this is going to come from the simulation anyway. I know I've said that like 4 times at this point, but I really want to like drive that point home. So pull this out. Maybe we can polish this to be a little bit straighter again. And I think that's gonna work decently well now. So let's fuck. That's no problem. We can just like inflate this ever so slightly, and that should fix that up right away on both sides. Okay. I'm also going to need to figure out how to like animate cloth physics, like drive cloth physics springs through animation. That's going to help me out a lot with these animations for this guy as well, I think. But this is a pretty decent start for now. For how this will work. And it's only 3.5 million polygons in the end, which is actually quite good. So what we'll do is I'll retopo this in Blender. Then we'll texture it and we'll run the first tests. Do I want to retopo this already? No, I don't actually, but I need to. I can't run a test on this at 3 million polygons, so I need to at least retopo. And if we're going to do that, we might as well just run it through substance real quick. Just to see how it actually looks in Engine and get a good idea for it. Well, it has been a huge pain in the ass. I will be back on Monday. This time I'll actually be back on Monday. Previous Monday stream didn't happen because I forgot that I was gonna be out of office, out of town on Monday. But next Monday I'll be back and we'll probably be doing some stuff in Unreal again because I've learned my lesson. I need to reacquaint myself a little bit more with ZBrush and just work a little bit more with ZBrush before I start doing live streams again. Because this might have been like inspirational for people watching tutorials on my channel thinking, hey, stuff doesn't go this smoothly for me. Newsflash, it doesn't for me either, but I just don't upload that because that's not productive for everybody. So now that I've done that for 2 hours, we're going to go back to like actually useful stuff happening on stream and me struggling happening off stream because I don't think I don't think this is going to be productive for most people. I'll see you all on Monday. Again, probably doing some level design stuff just to get the hell away from whatever it is we were trying to do here.